Hello, everybody, and welcome back. Today is December 18, 2025, and we are kicking off this podcast with a couple of things to talk about. Things that fascinate me and that type of stuff. So, if you're here, please do me a solid, hit the like button. I would truly appreciate that, as well as turning on bell notifications if you just subscribe to my channel. Because that way you guys will be notified when a video goes live, when a shorts is uploaded, or when I am live. So yeah, I definitely don't want to miss those. As I try to, be consistent on this wonderful platform of YouTube. So, with you guys being here, first off, thank you guys for being here. I appreciate it. And today's a little bit unique day. So we are going to be talking about the Samsung Galaxy A53 and, I guess the idea for this video came at a conversation, last night on Instagram Live, and, Ascentech came on, and you guys know him as Latrell Jennings came on, and, he was just chatting in my live stream and everything like that while I was looking at Christmas lights in the downtown area of Glendale at Glendale Glitters. And I was live streaming from the Galaxy A53, and I was explaining like how it has One UI 8, and it came as like a shocker. So I figured I would just talk about it, because the Galaxy A53 is a phone that's like it's kind of like a wow factor, that is still supported, and Samsung even says it's going to get One UI 8.5. So we're going to talk all about that here in a little bit. I'm also going to be talking about Android 16 QPR 3 Beta 1 that just released on Pixel 9a, just updated to it. And I haven't updated it on my Pixel 10 yet, but I will sometime soon. Right now, I'm just still kind of playing around with it. But there are a couple of things that, you do want to know about the latest QPR beta for that release. And I got a phone over here. I didn't grab it and put it on my desk, but I'll go and end up grabbing it here in a second, and we're gonna go ahead and just kind of talk about it and whatnot. So for the most part, with everything, today's gonna be just pretty much hang and chill. I mean, we're coming up on Christmas. Christmas is next week, man. Jeez, this year's going by pretty quickly. And, so I'm going to go ahead and start a Q&A. There's a question for you guys, but let me make sure I type this out right. All right. Get this question going, and you guys want to go ahead and answer the question, that'd be super awesome. But anyways, all right, so one of the things I do just kind of want to kind of dive into. Wow, I'm getting like all kinds of notifications. What's going on? Let's see here. Okay. Oh, Pokemon Go. What do you know? One of my favorite mobile games to play, Pokemon Go. I'm into Pokemon, sorry. Anyhow, all right, so let's just kind of go over this right here. We're gonna start it off with Android QPR 3 Beta 1, which just recently released, and so people are updating to it. Here are, the website in itself is Android Authority, so I'm gonna go ahead and I'll post that link in the chat. What happened to my chat? What is going on? No, I don't want to let's do that. There we go. Anyways, so here is the link to the site that I am looking at, that I have pulled up here on the display for you guys. And really, they kind of broke it down to a couple of things that you will notice that has changed in Android 16 QPR 3 Beta 1. And I'm going to go ahead and let you guys know if I've noticed these things right off the bat, as my current device, the Pixel 9a, pretty much got it. As a matter of fact, hold on. I got like so much stuff over here. pretty cool. I got some pumpkin spice bread, so I'm kind of excited for that. Let me just move my beverage of choice out the way and just kind of, just make way for some stuff here. I figured, you know what? Let's just do it like this. Let's see. Why is that out? It like totally took out what? What is going on here? Hang on. I am going to make this Oh man. Technical difficulties. 1 second. I didn't even realize that this one it didn't connect. Why? It should have connected, but it didn't for some reason. Let's see. Oh, pretty weird. I should have checked that camera to make sure that it was actually working. So it's not working. And I can't shut down the stream right now. So I'll just make do with what I have. But anyways, yeah, so Pixel 9a recently got the update. So anyways, let's see. So one of the things they talk about, flashlight brightness controls. So with Android 16 QPR 3 Beta 1 brings a simple yet nifty upgrade to the flashlight tile in quick settings, a brightness slider. The flashlight tile is no longer just basic on and off switch. Instead, you can now expand it by long pressing the tile. This reveals a new flashlight strength dialog featuring a vertical slider shaped like a flashlight beam. And as you drag the slider from the bottom to the top, full brightness, an arc representing a beam of light expands to visualize the increased intensity. Okay, so let me try that right now. I want to see if that works. So let me drop down this and let me just kind of long press. Oh yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna try and blind myself. Hold on. This is why I wish my topside camera was working. But anyways, yeah, you guys see it there. I'm trying not to blind myself. But there's what it's talking about, and I guess, oh yeah, look at that. Huh. You can definitely increase the intensity. Wow, that's nifty. That is a nifty tool, and the reason why I say that's a nifty tool is because, sometimes when you turn on the flashlight and it might be like overly brightening or whatever, you may not want that brightness, because say you dropped your keys, you're out in a dark parking lot, you dropped your keys, turn your flashlight on, but you don't want to alert people that you're scrambling around for your keys. So you want enough light to be able to see, but nothing that's going to attract attention. So you can dim the light where it's just enough for you to see on the ground where your car keys dropped, and not have other people look in your direction and say, hey, look at that person over there, they must be looking for something. And it could be bad people. It could definitely be bad people. So, I mean, that's just one of the things that I say, like, hey, that's a nifty little feature to have. So good on them to bring that. And literally how you just access it is how I stated in reading verbatim the instructions, right? So, you drop down your quick settings tile, long press on the flashlight tile, and it'll pop up a little window that allows you to increase or decrease the intensity of the light of the flashlight. So that's actually pretty nice. Another new thing that came, basically, I'm not going to read this one verbatim, but it's just basically the navigation buttons. So this is something that Samsung has had for a while, right? If anyone that's familiar with One UI and TouchWiz, you guys are very familiar with this particularly, and that is just being able to flip it around, right? Like normally with Pixels, if you have 3-button navigation rather than gesture navigation, you have a back button, home button, and then a recent apps button, right? And in this case, you can just turn it around. So you can flip it to where you have the recents button on the left, the home button on the middle, and then the back button on the right. You know, some people prefer it that way because they're so used to Samsung that it's embedded in their brain that that's how, like, you know, the navigation button should be. So at least you have the ability to basically do that. So that's pretty nice. Nice little touch. Basically, the way that you access it is in settings under navigation mode. And if you go 3-button navigation, hit the gear icon that's next to it. You see right there like that. You hit that, and it'll bring up this menu where you can invert the recent and back button. That way, it's to your liking. Also, what we get with Android 16 QPR Beta 3, well, QPR 3 Beta 1, it now lets you see exactly which apps are checking your device's location. So, you know, being able to turn on and off locations for access from apps has been something that we've always had in Android, but this will allow, you know, for you to see which particular apps are using your location. So that's what it's basically talking about over here. The update introduces an expandable location indicator in the status bar. Tapping it opens the usual microphone camera location dialog, which actually shows the apps that are tracking your location. So when you look in there to see, you know, like which apps are using your microphone, which apps are accessing your location. Well, I mean, when you have that dialogue that, you know, there's an app, right? Because I don't know if you guys have seen it in notifications, right? Like anytime that you open an app, you see this little thing pop up and it's like a little green dot. And if you tap on it, it opens up and shows you dialogue that your microphone is being accessed and your camera is being accessed and your location is being accessed. Now you have a little window that can pop open completely and it'll actually show you the specific app that's using it, which is nifty and handy because you can see which apps is using your camera, using your microphone, you know, and you can go in there and adjust the permissions of that app to your liking. If you wanted to always have access to your cameras and microphones and location, or if you wanted to just while using the app only, or if you want that permissions turned off and you'll turn it on when you're going to use the app, right? It gives you that freedom to just kind of just decide and choose which one that you're actually going to do. And that's a very nifty and handy feature to have. So, you know, good on them for bringing that. This one is, you know, for people who kind of like, you know, are developers or even those who flash custom ROMs like myself. It says right here, automatically reconnecting wireless ADB or Android device bridge. What that is basically is just allowing your device to have, you know, your computer to have more access to your device when it's connected by a USB cable. Normally when you would just connect a USB cable, it will allow you to basically transfer files from your device to your PC or from your PC to your device, vice versa, right? And you can also, you know, for Pixels, Pixel 6 and up, you can also use it as a webcam, right? Pixels with the Tensor processor allows for the devices to be ran as a webcam on your PC rather than just, you know, having to download a third-party app. I know this very well because that's what my two cameras here are. The Pixel 7a is my webcam. The Pixel 6a is my top side camera, which is not working right now because I forgot to set it when I was setting up OBS. That's why I don't have access to it, which is going to suck because the mystery phone I wanted to show you guys and play around with, I wanted to have the top side view so you guys can just like see what I'm doing with the phone instead of me just having to stick it in front of the main camera. But we're gonna have to do that today. We make do with what we got going on. Anyhow, so yeah, it's nice to have the ability that when you basically are connected using an ADB that, you know, it'll automatically reconnect when you plug it into your PC. You don't have to go through the permissions of allowing it. So anyways, just, you know, a little bit more just in depth, as they say verbatim, if you're a developer or power user who is frustrated with wireless ADB. Oh, this is wireless ADB, sorry. Not ADB by USB cable. I got that wrong. Wireless ADB. Intermittently turning itself off, then you'll be happy to know that Google has implemented a small fix to Android 16 QPR 3 Beta 1. With this update, Android will automatically turn on wireless debugging whenever your device is connected to a trusted network. Yeah, so, okay. I thought it was wired. I should have read that. Instead of just like, it was like right there in front of all you guys, and I just didn't even start reading it. Like, what the heck is wrong with me? Anyways, so but I mean, still having that ability to have it, you know, connect automatically instead of having to go, because I remember people talking about that bug issue, or just that issue in itself. So that's, you know what, that's a much needed thing for, I guess, you know, like developers and stuff like that. Screencasting and external display. With the initial release of Android 16 in June, Google introduced the ability to record screen content of an external display. Now, with Android 16 QPR 3, Google is following up by allowing you to cast the screen contents too. So, that's nice. And there were some other things that it mentioned. I think I took a screenshot of it because when it was doing the updates, it had some other information that's not being mentioned here on this website. So let me just go into my screenshots. There we go. All right. So the other things, you know, where's it at? There we go. So yeah, a couple of things that's new also with this release, which I have right here. Took a screenshot of it. I knew it was going to come in handy. Pixel VIPs, so stay connected with your closest family and friends. So we have Pixel VIPs up and running on Android 16 QPR 3. Custom stickers in Gboard, so create from text or photos, powered by Pixel Studio, so you can get a little creative with your messaging. And then expressive captions, add styles to captions to better convey a tone, right? So, you know, instead of just having the plain, you know, font or whatever for the captions or whatever, it's going to have a little bit of something there to just kind of bring that mood, that feel to the captions as you're reading it and watching whatever content you're watching. I mean, that's Google trying to take machine and make it more human-like. I think that's like one of the underlining things about Google that people really need to understand is that is you know, their thing, right? The development of Gemini AI and just how, you know, human-like they're trying to make it. I mean, I've talked about this in the past. We talk about, you know, Google Duplex and how, you know, AI was able to make calls on your behalf and sound so human-like that an actual human that, you know, took a call from a business interacted with Duplex and pretty much didn't really even know they were talking to AI because AI had all those human, you know, vocal mannerisms and stuff like that. It was such a cool thing, and it is implemented today in Android. It's just, you know, there's a lot of these things that Android has, and like we tend to cover it when it comes to news. We tend to cover it. The downside to all of it is that most people don't really use those things, right? Like, for instance, let's go back to the days of the Pixel 4 and 4 XL. I mean, we had fast face unlocking, so fast and secure that they did away with fingerprint biometrics. So on the Pixel 4 and 4 XL is like the only Pixel device that doesn't have a fingerprint biometric security method. It is done by facial recognition. And with the help of Project Soli, which is a developmental radar chip that is used basically to just kind of understand motion and movements and to take what it sees in those motions and movements and to implement it into the software as commands. So that's why the Project Soli chip was like so intensely good on the Pixel 4 and 4 XL. Very underappreciated because a lot of people just looked at it like, okay, you know, fast face unlocking, like, you know, Face ID on iPhones. I mean, like everything at that time, iPhone was still like on top of the game between them and Pixel. And so like people really didn't understand like what that radar was doing. Like they thought the radar was just typically in junction with the camera for face recognition, because what it did was it did read a 3D imagery of your face. So it wasn't a two-dimensional face unlock, it was a 3D face unlock. That radar was able to get the contours of the curves of your face, your nose, your mouth, your lip lining, your eyes, everything, and be able to make a digital mapping of your face as a security. And so that's why it was so fast at unlocking your Pixel 4 and 4 XL. A lot of people believe like, oh, it's way faster than the iPhone's, you know, Face ID. Like, no, it's just the way the software was implemented, that once the phone recognized your face, boom, it instantly went to your home screen. Where with the iPhone, it would recognize your face in about the same speed that, you know, the Pixel 4 and 4 XL was able to. It's just you had that extra gesture. You got to swipe the screen up. to get into the home screen, right? Like the iPhone recognized your face and unlocked your phone, but you would still be at the lock screen. You had to swipe up. Whereas on the Pixel, it was like it read your face and boom, it opened to the home screen. That was the difference in speed. And the reason I was able to do that was because of that Project Solely radar chip. And the reason why that chip was there, and the reason why I was able to do that, was because it was already reading for 3D. It had to. If you made hand gestures like swiping over, a two-dimensional version of a hand swiping over is not really going to identify with Project Solely like what you're wanting to do. So it has to do it in 3D mode. That's why it has these little like lasers that ping out to capture like a 3D imagery to understand the movement and motions. That's what motion sense was all about. And so anyways, I just like went into a whole thing about motion sense. My bad. Hashtag Tito's ADHD, because that's what just happened there. Anyways, so kind of like lost my train of thought. I got so deeply rooted into the freaking I got so deeply rooted into the whole thing of motion sense that I totally forgot why I was using the Pixel 4 as an example. Oh shit, man, ADHD is a pain in the ass. Now you guys know what I struggle with. This is my struggle with ADHD, because I just totally brain farted like why I even went into the whole thing. You're not wanting much from Santa this year. Just that my kids are happy with what they get. Yeah. Oh yeah, man. Dude, that's dads. That's like that thing that like we really just tend to worry about, right? Most of my kids already know the real reason behind a lot of it, right? My youngest son, he's super excited for Santa, and so, for his happiness and everything like that, like everybody is in on it. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna say it. I refuse to say it. But a little tough spot. I mean, I'll talk about it at the end of the podcast, what happened yesterday, and just like how that all came to be. Little live special memorial services for my dog Opie. Rest in love, buddy. But anyways, yeah. So I totally screwed where I was going with this. So I'm just gonna jump into the next thing. But I will say a lot of these features that that Pixel get. Oh, that's what it was. A lot of the features that we get, we kind of underappreciate. We really don't use it. So like they implement all these really cool things, and that's really what we kind of judge the phone on when we start like doing all these little debates between like, well, this phone can do this phone can do that, and it's like, yeah, we have all these features. Samsung's packed full of features. Pixel's packed full of intelligent features. iPhone, Siri 2.0. It's got features. They all do. It's just that we don't really use them as a day-to-day need. Okay, they're cool to have when you want to show your friends. Like when I want to show off my phone to my friends, like, hey, look how smart my phone is, and I talk to Gemini and have her do this. But do I do that? Do I walk around my house and I start talking to Gemini? No, I rarely do. I do it when I'm going to search something, or I do it if I'm working on a project and need its help. But other than that, I don't spend my whole day walking around talking to Gemini, but it's there. I can if I want to. You literally can hold a conversation with Gemini out of nothing. You don't really have to be searching for anything. You could just be lonely and talk to Gemini and get like a response. I don't know, that sounds pretty sad and pathetic, but that's the reality of things. So yeah. So when it comes down to like all these features and stuff like that, I mean, they're cool to have, but the realization of things is that people don't even really use all of it. So it's not really much of an argument point about which phone is like greater than the other. I mean, because that's my next leading topic to kind of go into is like, the whole aspect of where mobile tech is going today, because we are in this scramble. Okay, like everyone's for sure the battlefront is AI, and it almost seems that way. You have outliers that are trying to like drift the whole point of view into a different limelight. I.e., I'm talking about OnePlus. OnePlus has been killing it. OnePlus is just like, wow, I am thoroughly impressed with the OnePlus 15, and the OnePlus 15R is also very impressive too. And this OnePlus Turbo thing that what everyone's talking about is just like, okay, this is intriguing. There's a lot happening with OnePlus, and a very good thing. one of the biggest things that's coming with OnePlus, and I think that this is something that's definitely going to shift the direction of a lot of other OEMs out there, and exactly like how they build their phones and what components that they use. That is the introduction of silicon carbon batteries, something that I've been absolutely excited about for a while now, and now we're starting to see this little page turn that we're moving away from lithium ion batteries and moving into silicon carbon. Now, why are we doing this, and what is the significance of silicon carbon battery? Well, that's pretty damn simple. Silicon carbon batteries can pack in more milliamps, or basically more capacity of a battery, without actually sticking a brick in your phone. I mean, you gotta think about it. Like for years now, I've been seeing how lithium-ion batteries have impacted smartphones. I've even seen how manufacturers have decided to try and build bigger batteries. There was at one point where, in order to achieve, a 6,000 milliamp hour battery, that a company actually used 2 different 3,000 milliamp lithium-ion battery cells inside of a phone. You imagine when that battery life was so terrible and you wanted to do a battery replacement in your phone, because people tend to do that. Some people are like really attached to their phones that they don't want to buy another phone. They would just rather buy a new battery and then pay a repair shop to just swap the battery. I know, because I'm already planning up how and when I am going to do a battery replacement on my iPhone 12, on my Galaxy S21, and on my Nothing Phone 1. The Nothing Phone 1 I'm most scared about because it is an international device. There's not a lot of shops in my city that are familiar with it, so I'm afraid that they may screw the pooch trying to do it. So this might be the one time where I decide to say I'm gonna do it myself and get a battery, get a repair kit, and then do the battery swap myself. If I decide to do that, I'll definitely live stream so you guys can watch me doing it live and see if I'm successful or if I mess my phone up completely. I don't know, I'll think about it. But anyways, yeah. So the fact is with OnePlus, basically putting in silicon carbon battery in their devices, in the foreseeable future, going to a much higher battery capacity. We're talking, we're seeing 7,000 milliamp hour battery in some OnePlus devices, and other Chinese OEMs like Xiaomi and Oppo and Redmi and just all these companies. And we're starting to see phones have battery capacities of 9,000 milliamps. Just imagine how crazy that is in the market to have a phone that has literally probably 1 week battery. We're kind of on the cusp of that transition when it comes to mobile technology and the innovations and changes that these companies tend to bring little by little. I was in this little conversation with a bunch of people just talking about just smartphones, because that's my thing. And people were just asking the question, we have computers that have 32 gigs of RAM. We got computers that have 64 gigs of RAM. So why aren't smartphones getting 64 gigs of RAM? And what would it look like if we had 64 gigs of RAM? And I'm like, if we had 64 gigs of RAM, PCs are going to be a thing of the past. Not that they're going to be so obsolete no one's ever going to touch one. But majority of what you would do on a PC and what you would find to be able to do on a PC, you're eventually going to be able to do that on a smartphone. So then the essence of getting on your PC is probably when you're charging your phone. Most of the stuff you're going to be able to do is going to be right from your phone itself. Think about it, right? You buy a phone that has the best graphics, right? The best GPU, has the most battery efficient and powerful CPU processor, right? Along with AI, the NPUs, the TPUs. So all that is top of the line specifications, and then clocked in at a pretty good rate, right? You got 64 gigabytes of RAM on your phone, and you got a 10,000 milliamp hour battery on your phone, right? So imagine what online gaming is going to look like when you could do it from your mobile phone with some Bluetooth earbuds in, so you can communicate with people if you're when one of those first person shooter online play games, or even if you're playing GTA, right? You'll be able to chat with people as you're gaming with good broadband connection. And all you really got to do is get a phone mount and mount that phone mount to this controller, this type of controller, and be able to just sit at your leisure in your bed, on the couch, inside the car, on your lunch break and at work. And you can get some online gaming going on, because you would have, a powerful processor, powerful, graphics, powerful sound, a good amount of power for battery life, and then, yeah, you're just good to go. And then you have the RAM to be able to support these games at high refresh rates without having to worry about, frame skipping and any of that type of stuff, right? You don't have to worry about that. So yeah, like we were all like wishful thinking, like 64 gigs of RAM, 2 terabyte phone for storage capacity. Yeah, it was just going absolutely crazy. 105 megapixel selfie cam, right? If you wanted to like actually be visually seen in the chat while you're mobile gaming, and then, like a 500 megapixel main sensor, and 105 megapixel telephoto, and 250 megapixel ultra wide. Like, I mean, we're just like going bananas over specifications. I think new types of battery will help keep devices longer, not just capacity, but hopefully longevity. So the one thing that, when it comes to longevity is just basically something that, like, maybe someone like you and I really tend to appreciate. As you definitely know, the reason why the advancements in mobile technology hasn't just drastically exploded the way that I've been, kind of like commenting on, is because even though if they have the capability and the know-how to do it, which they do, don't count out these companies like Samsung and Apple and Google. Like they know how to do it. They know how they would do it. The reason why they're not really like diving headfirst into it is because none of the competitors are focused on that, and they don't want you to like buy a phone once every 10 years, because that would be the issue. Buying a phone every 10 years means that they're not going to be making money like in the most optimal way that they know how to make money, right? Motorola has one of the best marketing strategies ever when it comes to their budget line of devices, right? The Moto G, the Moto G Power, the Moto G Stylus, the Moto G Play. All these devices literally get like 1 year software support, as far as like one software upgrade, and then they're like pretty much obsolete going forward, right? The only way you're really gonna like enjoy that phone is if you don't really care about being on the latest software, and then you can get a good experience out of them. But like even Motorola has to succumb because customers are not stupid. Eventually customers will be like, why can't I just keep my my Moto G Power 2025 and be able to use it for a couple more years? So now the newer Moto G phones that are coming out are going to have the same as the Moto G Power 2025, which I recently reviewed. That is, they're going to have at least 1 to 2 software updates before no longer being software supported, just security patches for another couple more years, right? So like my the Moto G Power 2025 that Brandon gave me to review, it's going to go up to Android 17, and that's its end of life. It started at Android 15. It got Android 16 already. At least my variant did. And so the next software update is going to get is Android 17, and then that's it, right? But that's at least giving you, a person like, 2.5 to 3 years of usage out of a $200 to $300 phone. And so like Motorola is starting to basically follow in suit with that, right? So like the 2026 G series are going to have that, the 2 software supports and IP68 or IP69 water and dust resistance, rather than Moto's nano coating that they were relying on for water repellents. Now it's actually going to have certification. And like people got to understand, IP68 or IP69 water and dust resistance, like all that stuff is just basically a certification from a company that checks its ability to be able to be dust resistant and water resistant, and at what level, right? So they run the test. Or they get the test results from Motorola or from Samsung, right? And they see, and so they give it a classification, right? So like when you see like IP69, right? 6 being the the dust resistance. I think the 6 is the dust resistance, the 9 is the water resistance. Or so the first digit's dust, second digit's water, or vice versa. But like I'll tell you like water resistant up to 1.5 meters for 30 minutes, or up to 3 meters for half an hour. So that gauges like if it's like a 7, 8, or 9, right? Or a 5. Yeah, the second number is water resistance, the first number is dust resistance, and that's to what level. And that's all it really is. So like there could be a phone that doesn't list that it's water and dust resistance and like what certification was it given for water and dust resistance, but the phone actually could be water and dust resistant. I wouldn't recommend checking by dunking your phone in water, because at the end of the day, these are electronic devices. They really shouldn't be going in water in the first place, unless you know. I always looked at it like this. Water and dust resistance to me, all that tells me is that like if I'm like at a pool party and my phone is in my pocket, if I accidentally jump in the pool with my phone's not going to completely go kaput. It's not going to just like short out and just die. I could be like, oh my god, my phone's in my pocket, and jump out of the pool real quick, run up to where my stuff is at, get my towel, give it a good wipe down, and just let it sit in the sun and let it dry. That's what I look at these water and dust resistance for. I don't look at it, it's like, okay, we're at a pool party, let me bust out my camera and I'm going to start taking some photos in the water and video in the water. I mean, I used to do that in the past, but no. And there's like only really one company I remember that actually made like a waterproof phone. It wasn't water resistance to that degree. It was waterproof, and that was Kyocera. The Kyocera Hydro that I got on Boost Mobile years ago. Well, I was able to take photos underwater and be with it in the water without worrying too much. The crazy thing about that is that I had to do a workaround where I was able to initiate video recording because from the display, if you put it in video mode and you're underwater, you tap to record, it wouldn't register your touch. So yeah, I did like work around with the volume. The volume set as a shutter button when the camera app's open, and so when you put it in video mode and you click it, it'll start recording video, and then you can swim around. It was really cool. But anyways, yeah, Kyocera was the only ones that I knew that were waterproof like that. Crazy. But anyways, yeah. So no, man. Today's just one of those days. It's like, it's really, I'm so sorry if I just seem like I'm out of it. It's really hard for me to focus. I will explain everything at the end of the live stream. So, I'm just getting through like the stuff that I want to talk about. Which kind of brings me to this, the Galaxy A53. This device right here is a device that has people pretty much surprised. It is still supported. This phone is still supported with One UI 8, which is crazy because my Galaxy S21, which I know it's capable of running One UI 8, but the Samsung won't give it to it. It's totally fine. You know what? Like, I'm not gonna flash it and put a custom ROM on it just because it doesn't feel obsolete to me and everything. It's still smooth, still functions. So I'm just using the Galaxy S21 on One UI 7, which is totally fine. But it's just crazy that the Galaxy A53, which came out April 1st of 2022, so it was announced in March of 2022, it became live to purchase on my dad's birthday, April 1st, so April Fool's Day. The Galaxy A53 is a hit or miss type phone. There are people that like absolutely think it's an amazing phone and it performs well for them and everything like that. And there's the other side of the argument where people are just like, oh, this phone is super laggy, it's crap, it's shitty, and they don't like it. I totally get it. To each their own, right? It just depends really like how you use your smartphone. So like the ones that say that this phone is laggy and it's just a real crappy phone, I know just from your statement that there is a 95% chance that you are a power user. Power users are going to feel the lag in this because this is not meant to be a phone for power users. This is a budget phone, a mid-budget phone. That's what the Galaxy A53 is. So I know I'm not gonna be able to do a whole lot. That's why it always runs as my secondary phone. Being able to access, the actual social sites that I use, because I have apps on my phone. There's some that I use on a daily basis. There's some that I use like maybe once or twice a week, maybe like once a month. And so the ones that I don't use every day are not on this phone as my secondary device. So I don't have a lot of clutter on there. And of course, I don't, you could turn on things like RAM booster or boosted RAM or RAM extender, whatever you want. You just gotta understand that you are putting damage to the internal storage drive by doing that. So yes, it does give more RAM, and it does kind of help out, I guess, if the phone seems laggy or stuttery. But people have to also remember that it's also destroying your internal drive. So use at your own discretion. This phone, is the Boost Mobile variant. So it's very different from the Metro by T-Mobile variant. I believe the Metro version had more RAM than this phone does. I think this has like 6 gigs of RAM, and I think the Metro version had 8 gigs of RAM. So I'm pretty sure the Metro by T-Mobile version runs so much better and smoother compared to this. This is the Boost Mobile version, and it's 6 gigs of RAM, 128 gigs of internal storage. You can expand the storage with an SD card, so that's pretty nice. And you got like, you know, this array of camera setup here, basically 3 cameras. So you got a main shooter, you got, you know, an ultra wide, you got a telephoto, and then you have a macro sensor right there, and then a flash. So you can get pretty creative with this when it comes down to using it. Just know the Boost Mobile version is going to give you a hard time, a little lag here and there, whatnot. Nothing too terrible. I'm able to use the phone in itself, but like, if I was to compare this to the Galaxy S21 I have charging, the S21 smokes this out of the water. So simple and easy. And obviously, you know, Snapdragon 888 processor versus an Exynos 1280. Exynos processors are just crap garbage. You know, Samsung really needs to really get the Exynos team back, you know, on the ball of getting this stuff fixed, because I can tell you guys right now, that's just so terrible. The Galaxy A52 was probably the one that most people are sought after. It's very similar to the A53, has the same design language as far as the hardware. Only difference is that the A52 has a Qualcomm chip, so you'll have a little bit of much better response with that. I don't know how good. I never had the A52, so I can't really tell people from personal experience like how good that phone is. But I can say that, you know, if it's a Qualcomm, it probably runs just a smidge better than the Exynos 1280. Even with the Galaxy A54 and the Exynos 1380, people were complaining about the processor speed in that. And in the A55 is when things kind of slightly changed up a little bit. But of course, the A55 never made its way to the US. And I'm curious about the A56 that's dropping later on in 2026 and just how well that phone's going to perform. I probably might get my hands on one of those as a modern updated Samsung device that I can play around with and whatnot. But for right now, my Galaxy S21 is doing the job. And, you know, I really don't... Like, I want to upgrade to like the S22 and S23 just to kind of see how things progress with those phones from Samsung. But at the same time, I don't really need to, because I'm having a ton of fun with the Galaxy S21. No rhyme pundit intended there. No pun intended there, but like, I wasn't trying to rhyme. But anyways, you know, like I said, for the lack of things, the S21 doesn't get One UI 8. And that was the only sad thing about that phone. The S21 Fan Edition gets it. And I could go and get me the S21 Fan Edition, but then I'm just like, oh, who knows? Whatever, type of thing. Galaxy A53 still being supported, and it's going to get One UI 8.5, and that will be its end of life. So those who are still Galaxy A53 owners and users, just know this: when you get the One UI 8.5 update, as Samsung clearly says that it's going to get, that's your end of life. Wouldn't surprise me if Samsung changes their mind and just makes One UI 8 the end of life. You know what I mean? Like, it's cool, it's okay. You know, it's got a little flair stuff to it from Android 16. Not a whole lot. You know, lock screen customizations is almost very similar to like what we have on Pixels. So it is what it is. You know, in that point. But the Galaxy A53 is a pretty solid phone. I like using it. I like throwing my SIM card inside of it and using it, you know, from time to time. But you know, the S21 is like the one I really like to keep as my secondary. Only just, you know, because like my iPhone 12, like I don't want to buy a new iPhone. I just don't want to spend money on a new iPhone. But I am here soon gearing off to take it in to have the battery swapped on it and have a fresh battery put inside of it. I know that the iPhone 12's battery was already crap to begin with. A lot of people have stated. But I know it's going to be a lot better than what it is right now, because right now, screen on time with my iPhone 12, that is, I think, like 2.5 hours, almost 3 hours of screen on time. Like, as soon as I boot it on, well, it's actually always on, but as soon as I take it off the charger at 100%, and maybe like 15 minutes of just like, you know, doing my morning routine, checking emails and messages and stuff like that, from 100% down to 85%, like not 85, I'm exaggerating, maybe like 91 to 89%, it gets down in 15 minutes of usage. That's not good. Okay, take it out the house after like 1 hour off the charger, it's down to 73%. Yeah, it goes pretty quick. It goes really fast, the battery. So, yeah, I do need to get batteries replaced on that. The Galaxy S21, it had great battery when I first bought it. I bought it, used on OfferUp. This lady sold it to me. But the battery was like amazing on it. Like I loved the battery life on it. Like I would take it off the charger, it'd be at 100%. 40 minutes later of like, going through social media and stuff like that, it'll be at 100%. Almost 40 minutes later. Just like checking emails and stuff like that. It really wouldn't drop down that 1%. Even though like behind the scenes it probably did. Because like as soon as like I would like turn on a video from YouTube, I would see it go from 100% to 97%. So, maybe it just doesn't register a drop in the percentage of the battery as you're using it in that first 40 minutes off the charger, just because, you're just doing light stuff. So it's just like for your eye pleasure, 100% battery. But I think, the discharge of the battery was just really good. Of course, the battery killers in my family, i.e. my daughter, Jalen, and my youngest daughter, Nevaeh, they can kill a battery. Because they do all the wrong things you shouldn't do with your smartphone when it comes to keeping it powered. Because they deal with battery anxiety for kids that are like, they're chatting with their friends online, or they're playing Fortnite on, like on the TV, and they're like using Discord to video chat, or they're playing Minecraft on their phones or whatever. And so they deal with battery anxiety. Like I know my oldest daughter has a habit that if she sees that her phone is below 50%, she plugs in a charger while she continues to do what she's doing. What she doesn't understand is that lithium-ion batteries are temperamental to heat. So when you're warming that battery up and continue, which is basically playing a game while it's charging, you are also degrading the battery much faster. That's why my iPhone 12 went from having pretty decent battery life when it had a battery health at 85%. She brought it down to 79% in just 3 months. She really brought it down. So now it does need to be serviced. And then my daughter Nevaeh did the same thing with the Galaxy S21. I let her use it. She really liked the phone because it was so customizable and theming and stuff like that. She's heavy into Dragon Ball. So she loves Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball GT, and like the older anime and the newer episodes that are out, like with all these different versions of Goku. Goku with blue hair, Goku with black hair. Like a black hair with red tint, Goku going, and black with a white glow, like he's Bruce Leroy from, the Last Dragon movie fighting Shonuff. Like, Dragon Ball's been all over the place, but she really likes it, so she liked the Galaxy S21 because she can theme it. And then she was playing games on it and obviously doing that thing. She would have the charger plugged in while she was playing a game and completely killing the battery. So they're like my battery testers. But yeah, so the S21 does need a new battery. So I will eventually take it in because it already has a cosmetic problem to it. It's not very noticeable. You have to put it in like, so I have like these 2 cases I bought for the phone. You would actually have to put the phone in those cases and then take the case off in order to expose the problem. But the plastic back cover, because if you guys didn't know, the Galaxy S21 is not glass built on the back. It's plastic. Another reason why I really like it. But that plastic lifted off the body. So its water resistance is compromised. That's the reason why I won't let any liquid get near it, because liquid can get inside it right now. And so yeah, it's loose. I could reseal it, but then what's the point of resealing it if like in the next month or so I'm gonna have a little bit of extra funds? So I'll be able to take that phone over to a repair shop and not only have them reseal it to fix just the water and dust resistance, but since it's partially open, I might as well just have them swap in a fresh battery for the S21 and then have a battery with 100% capacity health. Same with the iPhone 12. I'm going to put in a fresh battery on that. And I don't expect it to have like a dramatic change, but I know for a fact I will feel a difference, because before, when I was using the iPhone 12 as my secondary device that had iOS, I could charge it overnight. By morning, when I get up in the morning at 6, I could take it off the charger and use it. And using it moderately, because I'm not a heavy phone user. By 4 in the afternoon is where it will be at like between 30 to 35% battery, and then I would actually have to like charge it around dinner time. So I'm not even getting those battery lives. Like I take it off the charger at 6 in the morning. I got to throw it back on the charger at 9 in the morning because it's already down to like freaking 21%. It's rapidly draining pretty fast. So real quick, what I wanted to show you guys before I get into the details of what happened yesterday and just kind of explain. Some of you guys know what happened. If you guys follow me on social media, you guys know. For those who don't know, who only follow me on YouTube, or you guys are about to find out what happened yesterday. But there's a phone that I'm going to put on here. This is why I wanted my topside camera to work, so you can like experience all this together. But my dumbass forgot to make sure that it was actually set. Anyways, so yeah, let me see if I can get it powered on. If you guys know what this is, oh, there it goes. It's turning on. I stuck it on the charger all last night. I seen it started to charge up, so I just left it on the charger all night, hoping that it will turn on. And it's turning on. This is the Samsung Galaxy Note 5. Although it's missing its stylus because my older sister doesn't take care of anything. And one thing I did notice when the screen kicked on yesterday, so real quick, biometric fingerprint sensor on the home button. God, that's so crazy. Oh shoot, that's so bright for you guys. You guys are gonna see nothing on that. Let me lower the brightness to there. What this phone reminds me of is my Samsung Galaxy what was it, J7? 2015? I don't remember. Anyways, TouchWiz! TouchWiz, one of the most crappiest user interfaces ever created. So bogged down, glitchy, and janky, and stuttery, and pisses me off. I'm looking at it, and it already pisses me off. But, yeah. I'm trying to look online and see if somebody has an S Pen for the Note 5. And then if they can send it to me, that'd be pretty cool. It is a T-Mobile variant, so I don't know if Metro by T-Mobile will let me activate this on my Metro account. I'm pretty sure they might. Just, obviously not eSIM because it's not eSIM supported. Actually, I didn't even look in here to see if my sister left an SD card in here. This was her phone way back in the day. And, yeah, she was like, it doesn't turn on. She couldn't charge it, so she, like, gave it to me. So then I just stuck it on one of my chargers I have. Oh, no, there's nothing in here. There's no SD card support for this. It's just a SIM card. I like how the SIM card tray is, like, at the very top. That's, like, pretty cool. And it's sideways, too. It goes, hold on. It goes in like that. So you put the SIM card sideways and then pop it in at the top. And I like that it's at the top. Anyways. Yeah, wow. It's so janky and jittery. Like, oh my Christ. This thing is just so bad. look at that. What the hell? That's right. It has the Galaxy app drawer. Oh man, TouchWiz on Samsung. Huh, you guys get the reference there? TouchWiz on Samsung. Okay, I'm stupid. Never mind. Anyways, yeah. So I have the Galaxy Note 5 over here, and I would probably end up doing a video, just kind of like a throwback. But I wanted to show you guys on the live stream today that I got it working. Right now it says 100% battery. So like I was like thinking to myself, like, because this thing is pretty old, that battery would just start dropping as quickly as when you take it off the charger. So I guess my sister pretty much like did what I told her to do in the past when it came to like charging your smartphone and just how to basically maintain the battery, so that way you're not sapping the battery's life pretty quickly, because it's still at 100%. So that's pretty cool. Yeah. Now, the one thing that, this is kind of the reason why they started bringing in what was called dark mode. So like there's a purple wallpaper here, so you guys ain't really gonna see it, but I'll try to put a white wallpaper when I do my throwback video on the Galaxy Note 5. And because I can see it myself, it has terrible screen burn-in. I mean, I see the Samsung keyboard shadow on it. I can see the top notifications, you know, like the battery percentage area, the Wi-Fi icon, like, you know, everything is, she burned the hell out of the screen. It's like so. Does it have a user replaceable battery? Like the Galaxy Note 5, can you pop the battery out? No, it's embedded. You can't take the battery out of this. I think one of the last Samsung devices that I had that had removable battery, where you can just, you know, get like an extra battery and get an external a battery charger and be able to carry multiple batteries with you with the phone. Last phone that I was able to do that with was the Samsung Galaxy J7 2015. That's pretty much it. Everything after that was going into non-removable batteries. I'm skeptical of people that do the 80-20 thing. There was a really good video recently from HTX Studios where they did a 3-year study and found that only charging to 80% had little, if any, impact. So the 80-20 thing, the reason why that became such a popular thing is because of, it's like, how do I put it? If you are completely discharging your phone to 0%, okay, the lithium-ion batteries and the way that they work, when you plug it back in and it's charging up, obviously you are degrading the battery itself. Think of a lithium-ion battery like the bomb in The Dark Knight Rises. Remember, they made an atom bomb out of a nuclear reactor that they were going to use to power Gotham City. But when they disconnected it from the core, it started to become unbalanced, and they had like so many, I think so many weeks before it would go off. That's what a lithium-ion battery is. Every time it discharges, you have to recharge it. So like all those ions have to cross that barrier into the positive side. So then that way you have what's called life, right? So think of like a box, and there's a line that cuts it in half, right? On the top side of it is like the positive energy, the bottom side is the negative. And these little ion cells cross that boundary as you're charging. So when you charge, they all get put onto the side of life. And then as it's taken off the charger, they little by little make their way back down into the negative side. So when you're consistently doing that, bringing it to 0, where all the little ion cells are on the negative side, and you're having to stick it to a charging cable and push them all across that boundary to the positive side, that's a charge cycle. And every time that you do that from 0 to 100%, you are degrading the life before that battery in itself is no longer able to hold that way. The ion cells are just going to go all over the place because it has no regulation. You're degrading the battery over time. So that's why they introduced that whole 80-20 thing. It's like, you know, with the Pixel 9a, one of the things that people were upset with is that at 200 charge cycles, they were going to reduce the charge voltage, and they were also going to begin reducing the health capacity, how much it's able to charge up to keep it safe, because lithium-ion batteries are not safe. They're really not, which is why I also am liking the fact that it's being pushed over to silicon carbon for battery in the future. I mean, we get a bigger capacity. It's a little bit, you know, in my opinion, it's a little bit safer than lithium-ion when it comes to stability of a battery. I mean, look at the Galaxy Note 7, right? The infamous Note 7. The Galaxy device, 2 generations after this one, was so bad with whoever manufactured the battery for that phone that it even became a meme where people coded up GTA and changed the sprite of a C4 bomb to a Galaxy Note 7, and they were like sticking it all over the place, and then things were blowing up and people were laughing, whoever coded that up for the game. But yeah, so that's why the 80-20 thing is there. You don't have to abide by it, but just know this: whether you do the 80-20 or you don't do the 80-20, it's going to degrade almost at the same rate. The 80-20 does give a little bit additional, but it's not anything a game changer. It's not like giving you an extra year of battery life. It's not giving you that. It's not even giving you an extra 6 months of battery life. But a little more is better than none at all. And it's made to be that way. Like I said, like they don't want to put huge battery capacities in smartphones where you can have like 10-day battery life or 7-day battery life, because then, you're not going to want to move away from that phone. You're going to want to use that phone for the next 3, 4, 5 years. And these companies, what they want you to do is upgrade every year. That's why they always, like Samsung, like I was saying earlier, Motorola has it for the budget devices because they know people who buy the budget phones, they want the next version of Android. But in order for them to get it, they have to buy the next generation of the model phone that they like, because that will come with the software update and yours won't. You've already bought yours with the current Android software it's running, and that's what it's going to stay on. So Moto got that on lockdown. Samsung has a different approach to making everybody upgrade every year, and that's called trade-in. Oh, look at our new, foldable trifold, or, Galaxy S26, S26 Ultra. Yeah, it's a very expensive pricing, but if you trade in your Samsung Galaxy S25, we're going to give you about 80% of the value of the Galaxy S26. So people are like trading in their phones, like, oh, hell yeah, I have a S25. Here, take it, and lop off $800, making my, S26 Ultra only $450. Like, that's how they get people to get off the phones and get the newest phones, because they wave the shiny new toy and they tell you, yeah, this is expensive. Only the best of the best can carry something like this. But I'll tell you what, I'll make you a deal right now. I see you got last year's model, so I'll give you $800 for that phone. You give me the S25, and I'll give you this one. Now you only got to pay $450. That's Samsung's sales scale. By depriving yourself of 20 to 40% of your battery from day one, you're actually ending the very fate one seeks to avoid, which is having limited battery capacity. Well, to an extent. Because right now with modern day Android, battery capacity is now regulated by the software, not by the actual life of the battery, right? You got things like battery assistant, battery health assistant, all this stuff. It's baked into Android now. So the degradation of the battery is not just only by the charge cycles on its own, it's also by the software regulating. Like the software is like, okay, you've done 450 charge cycles on this thing. So even if the battery has not degraded down in health to like 85% capacity, the phone is going to make it happen. The phone is going to limit its charge up to 85% of the capacity. They're doing that because they're not trying to have a lawsuit. They came close so many times. Samsung has been sued a few times. They were sued so badly that, you remember, they had to force people to turn in their Galaxy Note 7s by sending out a software update that just pretty much killed its ability to connect to any carrier. So it was like literally a brick. You couldn't do nothing with it except take it to Samsung and then go with what Samsung was doing. Like, oh yeah, we know that the Note 7 was bad, so we're going to give you this phone, you trade in that phone, and we'll give you this phone at a very, very good price, right? They did all they could to get the Note 7s back. So they don't want to deal with that type of lawsuit and everything like that. So yeah, Apple, Android, they purposely limit your battery now. So it's regulated by software, not only by hardware. So like, my Pixel 9a, it's got a 5100 milliamp hour battery. The moment that it reaches 200 charge cycles, and they're automatically going to start throttling the voltage and everything. The only way I'm going to get around that is if I build my own version of Android that disables all these features within Android in itself from the code, and then flash it onto my Pixel 9a. That's the only way. Other than that, stock Android pretty much has that, or Pixel UI has that. And so it's done by charge cycles. Now, a charge cycle is only read on a device if you go from 0 to 100. Okay? That's one charge cycle. Now, as I explained before, let's say you let your phone discharge to 70% and you charge it back up. Well, it didn't do a full charge cycle, so it basically did like a third of a charge cycle or a fourth of a charge cycle. So if you keep discharging your phone down, say like you only charge it up to 80% and then you let it drain to 20%, it doesn't say, oh, you never charged it completely, so no charge cycle recognized. No, it's gonna do the math and it's gonna break it up into fractions. So if you discharge your phone down to 50% and charge it back up to 100%, that's half a charge cycle. You do that twice a day, that's a whole charge cycle. That's how it's read. So yeah, all that stuff that people were just like talking about, the whole 80/20 thing. I mean, I know they meant well of it, but they really needed to go more deeper into explain how that works. It's not just like a lot of people perceived it as if you don't let your phone charge beyond 80% and you don't let it discharge below 20%, that your battery is going to stay in perfect condition. No, that was never the case from the very beginning. Not at all. And it was so weird that people thought that way, thinking that a lithium-ion battery's life was eternal as long as you stuck to the 80/20. Like, no, it wasn't. It's still considered a charge cycle. It's just that, you weren't completely charging it all the way to 100%. You weren't discharging it all the way to 0%, because that does more harm to your battery. Like, I would always tell people, good rule of thumb is like, yeah, charge your phone up to 100%. Go for it. Turn on, clean charging on your iPhone, which, it regulates clean energy into the battery so it doesn't cause any life degradation to the battery, as per what they say, where it degrades it faster, right? So you could do that. You could turn on, battery assistant. You can turn on, whatever the hell you want to turn on for batteries, you can turn it on. The thing is, I wouldn't let it discharge anything lower than 10%, unless you really had to. But like when it's at 10%, throw it back on the charger. You're good. Okay. Understand that batteries are going to go. Understand that their health degrades over time. This is why repair shops make money. They make money because if you don't want to upgrade, if you don't want to spend $1,000 or $900, etc. on a phone, well, you can always go to a repair shop that will gladly repair your phone for $150 at best, right? Some places it's cheaper. Some phones is cheaper to replace. It's all about the age of the phone and how repairable is it. And so, yeah, you can just go in and say, hey, like somebody can walk in and say, hey, I really love my Galaxy Note 5. I flashed so many custom ROMs on here. So I got it on Android 15, but I don't want to upgrade and my battery's shit. Can you replace my battery? And they'll just go in and replace the battery, put a fresh one in there. Boom, you're good to go. That's what I'm going to do with my iPhone 12. That's why I haven't upgraded, and I haven't decided to upgrade from the iPhone 12. The phone still works. It's getting iOS 26. It's going to get iOS 27, and that's probably its end of life right there. And then I'll upgrade, because then there's no more software support coming to it other than, bug fixes and security patches and all the other shit that they're going to do. But, if I want iOS 28, I'm going to have to go and get an iPhone 13. That'll be the end of life. But I'll probably end up, when the iPhone 12 is obsolete, I'll probably end up like going for like the iPhone 16e or something like that. I'll get a couple of years of software support. As far as my Galaxy S21, it's the end of life. I really like it, but once Android 15 becomes obsolete, then I'll probably go and get like maybe like a Galaxy S25. By then, Galaxy S25 should be like, $300 on the market used. And I'll get it, I'll get that. Like the only phone that I really like keep up with is Pixels. But even then, I've already decided, because I know my time is limited here on YouTube. Content creators can't just stay on here forever. And so like now I'm going to put in the 7 years of software support for Pixel devices to the test. So like my Pixel 9a is the last A series I'm getting. The Pixel 10 is the last flagship I'm getting. My wife will upgrade to like the Pixel 11 or Pixel 12, and she's going to let me unbox those phones for her. But it's going to be her phone, not mine. I'm going to stay with my Pixel 10 all the way, until the Pixel 17 comes out. And I'm going to see how does the Pixel 10 do against the Pixel 17. And that will be a very interesting video, as well as like, how is like, was it for the Pixel 10? It launched on Android 16. So how's Android 23, working out? I'll be doing that on the Pixel 10. I'm looking forward to those videos. So yeah, like I'm not chasing after every phone. And I think that was my YouTube Shorts video that I've uploaded. I just have to finish editing, like the description and everything like that, and it'll be up and ready to view. It's like a little, 2.5 minute video. But I talked about that in that video. As a matter of fact, about the Galaxy S21 and why I still use it. Because I do have a Galaxy S21 review video that I'm also going to be uploading and probably releasing this weekend. And then, that YouTube Shorts will kind of like be paired with it so people can find that video. But at this point right now, like when it comes to smartphones, I'm not chasing everything out there. I'm just now sticking with what I have that I really like. I think I got a winning combination here. Pixel 9a as my budget Pixel, Pixel 10 as my flagship. And I'm like watching tons of videos, like, from like Waveform and stuff like that. There's guys on the Waveform podcast that's talking about how the Pixel 10 was a better value or a better choice compared to the Pixel 10 Pro and all this other stuff. And I'm just like, that's what I've been saying since the phone came out. But people are very judgmental on specifications and stuff like that right off the bat without actually using the phone. And then, I'm sorry to say, I'm not being mean, but then they look stupid as hell. Months later, they're on a podcast and they're talking about how good the phone is when like they gave it a very bad review from the beginning just because they read black and white paper. And then now they had the phone in their hands, and now that they've used it, now they're like, oh yeah, the Pixel 10 was probably a better option. I mean, yeah, of course, pricing we'll never agree with. That's the way that the consumer world works. They think that it's valued at this price. We think it's not valued at that price because who the hell wants to pay MSRP for anything? We all like discounts and we all want to pay cheaper. Okay, so anyways, on a side note, yesterday was a pretty tough day for me. Emotionally, yes, I was pretty sad. Some people will look at it and say like, oh yeah, your dog passed away. It's just a pet. But so like my family, we're animal lovers. Like we don't just get pets just as they're like a commodity to have or something, like they're part of the family. Our furry friends that hang out and bring joy, because one of the things I really like is walking the dogs. That's like a fun thing to do, because walking the dogs and, you get your steps in and you get to like, view the sky, see the sunset and stuff like that. It's pretty cool. And then I know I'm protected because if another dog that's loose tries to come after me, I know my dog is going to fight tooth and nail to protect me. So anyways, yeah. Well, we had 3 dogs. We're down to 2 dogs. My deerhead Chihuahua, he's not an applehead. He's a deerhead. He passed away yesterday. So he was already sick. I kind of felt bad because, I felt like he was in pain a lot. And, my family had a hard time letting go, And so about 3 days ago, I noticed that his breathing had completely changed. And I noticed that, he's very lethargic and like, he went to his water dish because like he was blind. What took my dog was diabetes. That's what took my dog. And, he had lost his vision and everything. And so like the other day, like, he gets around by smell. That's why I've never been like, since moving into the new place. And I told my wife, once we had everything set up, we weren't going to move anything around because since he lost his vision, we had to keep everything the same because then he can navigate his way around the living room by smell and by scent of like furniture and stuff like that. So we kept everything the same downstairs. Now we can basically just like change it all up. But, yeah, he got to his water dish to drink some water. And then all of a sudden he was just like, it looked like he was staring into the reflection of the water in the water dish. And I'm looking at him like he's not moving. He's not sniffing, to catch a scent of anything. He was just motionless, staring into the water. And then when I called his name, it was like it snapped him out of a trance. And then I called his name. He walked back to his pillow cushion. He laid on his pillow and like, the last 3 days, that's all he's been doing. He's been sleeping most of the day. So I already knew it was coming to that point. I just didn't know, like, I just didn't know how to tell my kids, hey, he's not going to make it. So I sat them down the other day and I'm like, hey, Opie is, he's not feeling the best anymore and whatnot. And you guys know that at some point that he's going to have to cross the Rainbow Bridge and, be with the other dogs and the other people. I was like, you guys need to start spending more time with him. Making lasting memories, not just for him, but for you. And so the last couple of days after telling my kids that, like my daughter would wrap him in a blanket like a newborn baby, all nuzzled and just like, yeah. And she would just carry him with her around the house and they'd watch movies. They put him on, they put him down on their lap and he would just lay there. He can't see the TV, he's blind, but they acted like he could watch TV with them. They did all kinds of things with him. And then the day before yesterday, that night, he was like shaking a lot. So I knew that was it. Like, okay, it's coming, so when they weren't paying attention and I was petting him, like, I know this doesn't really mean anything. It's not no mystical power or anything like that. But like, I just started opening up to him letting him know that it's okay to go. Like, the family's gonna be okay. We're all fine. It's okay to go. I just don't want you to be in pain anymore. I was like kind of whispering that to him as I was, petting him and just sitting with him. I didn't think it was gonna be that quick, but yeah. So that night they were like, "Hey, can Opie sleep in our room?" I'm like, "Yeah, take him in your room. He can sleep in there. Just keep an eye on him." So they brought him into the room and they covered him with a blanket. So because he lost a lot of body fat, so there's no way in hell he was able to regulate his own temperature. I mean, he was cold, so they wrapped him up in a blanket. And I remember it was like 5:15 a.m. I woke up yesterday. I just sat in my room and just in silence. And then it was like maybe 5:58 a.m. My wife kind of woke up because she can tell that I was awake. She can feel my movements. Just adjusting myself a lot in bed lets her know he's not asleep, he's awake. So she woke up and she was like, "Oh, I'm gonna go check on him." And she walked out and walked into my kid's room, and then I just heard her start crying and saying, "Oh no!" And I was like, "Oh, he's moved on." And like clockwork, oldest daughter started crying, youngest daughter started crying, youngest son started crying, second oldest son started crying. I walked into the room to go see him, say my goodbyes. So then I spent the better part of yesterday morning just looking for a place that would do cremations, because I don't understand why they do this with those pet crematories. I don't know why they do this. So like they were like, "Oh yeah, if you want to cremate your pet, it's like $250, like one of the cheapest ones I've seen, and that's for a communal. A private one is like $350 to $400. I'm like, wait, why do I want him mixed in? Because that's what they do. Communal means that they're gonna do one big giant pile of cremation. So other people's dogs that passed, they're all gonna be put in, they're all gonna be cremated together. So you may not actually even end up with your own pet's ashes. You might end up with somebody else's ashes. And that's not cool. I don't like that. So my wife found one. So it's a new place that opened up, and she spoke to the guy. She was telling him what happened. He says that they only do private cremations. They don't do communal. So your pet, your pet's ashes are yours and yours. It's not going to be somebody else's pet mixed in with yours. And he was like, he was willing to work out, payment plan with my wife or everything like that. He was talking about how they charge, payment plans they offer, things like that. And my wife was like, "Okay," she's like, "I just wanted to know your rates. We're having a tough time." And then he was like, "You guys don't need to call around. I'm gonna work with you on whatever you guys need because this is a tough time for you guys." Like, he was very understanding. That was so cool of him. The name of the company is called Horizon. They're actually he's not far from where I live, where the facility is at. And so anyways, yeah, he's like, he can come pick him up in an hour. He said he'd be here around like 8 in the morning. He actually got here a lot earlier. And I felt bad for him because we met him. He came to my townhouse. I opened the gate, and my oldest daughter had him in her hands wrapped in a blanket. And he had like a basket that looked comfortable, like a small hand basket, because dog's a Chihuahua. We let him know it's a Chihuahua. So he brought this basket. It was really nice, and he took Opie from us and he placed him in there, and he took the blanket that belonged to Opie and was like, I'll make sure that this comes back to you guys. I'm just gonna let him go with his safety blanket. And it looked like the guy was gonna cry, and I was like, man, I felt bad, like our loss, our emotions is now bearing on somebody else. And so he was talking to my kids, and he was like, "How long did you guys have him?" They're like, "Oh, we had him for 13 years. Because originally he was my sister-in-law's dog. Like, my sister-in-law and her ex-boyfriend got this dog, kind of like, couples having a kid. She wasn't ready to have kids yet, so they got a dog, which is kind of like a kid. You got to take care of it. And then they didn't want to take care of it anymore, so the dog got passed around. It went to my mother-in-law's house, and things happened, so she asked us to take the dog. We took Opie into our home, and then he got close with my other Chihuahua, Courage. He got close with her, so when they wanted Opie back, we were talking to them like it's probably not a good idea that Opie goes back to you guys because he's too attached to Courage, and I don't want neither dog to be depressed that they're separated from each other. So we just ended up keeping him, and he stayed with us for 13 years. So the guy who's doing everything, he was asking us if we wanted to have like a service, because they do the whole thing, right? I mean, it may sound stupid to other people, but some people love their pets as family members and not just property. And so he was asking us if we wanted to have a like a service, a funeral service, and we told him no, because we're not gonna. Even if we invited people to come over to say goodbye to our dog, I mean that they know our dog, but they're not attached to our dog, so they don't really care to show up. So we're like, no, we just want to make sure that he's cremated. We picked out a nice little urn for his ashes to go into. We wrote down his name. We wrote down his possible known birthday. And then, so the guy looked at my kids and he's like, hey, we make paw prints. So that's what usually comes with the urn. They take like a little slab of clay and they push his paw print into it. And then, of course, they put it in one of those, I don't know if you guys ever made like, if you guys did pottery in art class. I don't know if you guys remember that back in the day in elementary school, but like one of the famous things that we always made was an ashtray, because back then people smoked a lot. And so, yeah, something like that. So, they glaze it inside there to harden the clay so it doesn't lose its form and shape. And then, of course, like they paint it and stuff. So the guy was like, you guys get one of those. And my kids were like, yeah, they would appreciate it. And then he's like, we have these other things too, where, we put a little bit of roller ink on his paw and we press it into like, this paper. And then we, they seal it with, what the hell's that thing called again? They laminate it and stuff like that. He's like, I'll make 3 of those, 1 for each of you, and I'm not going to charge you guys additionally for that. So like, I was like, wow, like they're taking care of us and everything, obviously, so yeah. Later on this evening, we should be getting the urn today because my wife called them up and it was like, she was checking in, see how things was going. It was like, yeah, they're doing it today. He's like, we should be able to drop off, return him back to you guys this evening. I'm like, wow, that was pretty fast. So yeah, it was a very tough day yesterday, mostly for me because I had to comfort my kids. I had to comfort my wife. My wife was like crying hysterically. I had to remind her, like, he ended up being diabetic. Like I was telling her, like, I'm not gonna go and put blame. I know where it kind of goes to because my mother-in-law, when he was living with her, and my brother-in-law, because my wife's older, her older brother, he's not older than her, but he's the oldest of the brothers. She has 2 brothers. He just had this idea where he just poured food in a dog bowl and just left it out all day for Opie to eat. And I'm like, you can't do that with these dogs because that's all they know, right? All they really know is to play, to respond to your vocals, to eat food and drink water, piss and shit. That's all these dogs know. They don't know to regulate, so you have to be the one to regulate how they eat. And there's a way that they eat. Like my German Shepherd, she only eats twice a day. That's all she gets is 2 feedings a day of dog chow, and it's 2.5 scoops out of the bag. That's what she gets. That's all she gets. And so when you just leave food out like that, they're going to continuously keep eating and eating and eating. They won't stop eating because that's what they're known to do. So, I'm not trying to be mean and like, oh yeah, they killed him. No, because they don't know any better. But yeah, ultimately that's what was done. I mean, if you follow me on Instagram, I posted a story and it showed what Opie looked like when he was like full healthy. He was pretty pudgy. He was pretty heavy set. So yeah, I just spent the better part of yesterday just, letting my kids share their emotions, right? Because I don't want them to bottle it up. So like if they cried, even if it seems silly of what they were crying about, it mattered to them. So it mattered to me that they got it out. And, kudos to my oldest daughter because like she was very heartbroken, but she still went to her last day of school for this semester. She's already on winter break because her high school had finals last week and this week. She did a test yesterday and she did really good on her test. even though she wasn't primarily focused. So I gave my oldest daughter a lot of props that she was able to do that. My younger kids, they stayed home yesterday from school because it was only half day for them. They have half day on Wednesdays. So they're back to school today. They're at school today and tomorrow, and then they're done until January. So, yeah, that's just really what's been going on since yesterday. Yeah. And it's still going on because they're still sad. They go about their day as they normally do, and then every now and then, the thought of him just pops in their head, and they just get brought down. I think one of the big things is when we leave the house and when we come back in, because that was Opie's thing. When we would leave to go somewhere, him and Courage would bark. When we came home, as soon as we opened the door, he was the first one always to bark and run towards us. And now when we do that, the house is silent. Courage doesn't bark because usually the way it goes is Opie barks first, then Courage barks. So Courage follows his lead. So since he's not here anymore to bark, Courage sometimes doesn't even bark at all when I open my front door to come inside. And so it's very quiet. It feels like somebody's missing from inside our home, even though Opie is just a dog. But he was part of family, and we loved him very much. And so, yeah, that's what we're kind of dealing with. I almost wasn't going to do this live stream. I was debating if I was going to do it or not. And I decided to do it so it would help take my mind off things too. Because I am sad, but it's hard for me because I have to put my feelings on the back burner to make sure that all of them are okay. I haven't really got a chance to sit and process everything and do what I'm going to do. If I'm going to cry, if I'm going to have a beer and get emotional, if I'm just going to punch the wall to get my anger out, I don't know. Because I haven't had time to really process it myself. I've been more of comforting them to help them before I deal with my emotions. Once I feel like that they're okay, I can deal with my own emotions my way. I might just go hiking to the top of a mountain and then sit there and just think about a really good dog that I had. The dog that, I said kind of defines what man's best friend is, So I'm glad that he's not suffering anymore. He's not in pain. And, whatever happens in the afterlife, I'll see him again. He'll be waiting for me on the other side when it's my turn to go. And I have two. I have my German Shepherd, Velvet, and my other Chihuahua, Courage. And it's just doing the same thing with them, spending time with them, making sure that, they're happy dogs, and having those memories so that when it's their time, we have the memories. So it really counts. Anyways, I'm not going to hold up more of your guys' time. You guys got a lot of things going on for you guys, so we're going to leave it at that. Yeah, those videos are going to be coming out, so make sure you guys got notifications turned on and whatnot. That way you guys aren't missing anything. And sorry if I'm, I was getting a little emotional. But yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. I know next week there's not going to be so much going on just because of the holidays. I mean, I'll have videos coming out to watch, but no live streaming really. Maybe on Christmas Eve, I'm going to have the Santa tracking on, and I'll stream and I'll pop in and talk every now and again. You guys won't see me on the live stream, but I'll jump in and talk every now and then, maybe every hour on the hour. But most of it is just going to be seeing the tracking of Santa Claus. You guys be safe for the holidays. I love you guys very much. You guys have a Merry Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, whatever you celebrate. We're not going to get into arguments about, the celebration of holidays. Just have happy holidays. I say Merry Christmas because I celebrate Christmas. And, yeah. You guys get it. I got to go. I'm just my mind's not all there right now. I'll see you guys later.